10 countries Americans will suffer to enter. In today's complex geopolitical world, not every country welcomes American travelers with open arms. While a U.S. passport may offer access to many parts of the world, there are certain nations where Americans face extraordinary challenges, ranging from hostile diplomatic relations to harsh visa policies, and even suspicion and surveillance. In this video, we'll explore 10 countries where Americans will suffer to enter. Whether it's because of political tensions, strict immigration requirements, or deeply rooted distrust, these destinations can be incredibly difficult for U.S. citizens to navigate. Number 10. Algeria. Algeria is often overlooked as a travel destination, but for Americans, it presents a unique set of difficulties. The country's visa process is highly bureaucratic and opaque, requiring numerous documents, including an official invitation letter and a detailed itinerary. Approval is not guaranteed, and the process can take weeks or months. Once in Algeria, Americans must be extremely cautious. The country maintains a strong security apparatus, and foreigners are closely monitored. In certain regions, there is a risk of terrorism and kidnapping, and Americans may be viewed with heightened suspicion due to the country's historical wariness of Western influence. Even simple acts like taking photographs or talking to locals can arouse concern among authorities, making the visit stressful and restrictive. Number 9. Pakistan. Although Pakistan is technically open to American tourists, the process of entering the country can be tedious and intimidating. The visa application requires detailed background information, including employment and travel history. Americans may be subjected to lengthy wait times, rejections without explanation, and additional security checks. Once in the country, Americans can face suspicion from both civilians and government authorities, especially in sensitive regions. The presence of radical elements and political instability further complicate matters. Even the U.S. Embassy in Pakistan has limited capacity to provide assistance in emergencies. The overall experience can be stressful and alienating for American visitors. Number 8. Afghanistan. Due to decades of war, political instability, and anti-American sentiment, Afghanistan remains one of the most dangerous and inaccessible countries for Americans. Most embassies have ceased operations, and there is no official U.S. representation in the country. Getting a visa is not only difficult but risky, as local authorities and armed groups may view Americans with suspicion or hostility. The presence of militant factions and the lack of a functioning legal system mean that U.S. citizens face serious risks, including kidnapping and detention. The U.S. government strongly advises against travel to Afghanistan, and those who do venture there do so at their own peril, often relying on extreme security measures just to survive. Number 7. Saudi Arabia. Entering Saudi Arabia used to be nearly impossible for tourists, but even with recent reforms, Americans still face difficulties. While e-visas are now available, travelers from the U.S. are subjected to strict scrutiny due to ongoing political and religious sensitivities. Americans must be cautious about dress codes, gender segregation, and expressions of personal beliefs, particularly religious ones. Any deviation from strict local customs can lead to legal issues. Furthermore, tensions over issues like human rights and regional conflicts have led to a cold, sometimes hostile environment for American visitors. Surveillance is common, and interactions with locals can be monitored, making it an uncomfortable experience for many. Number 6. Cuba. While travel to Cuba has seen brief periods of openness, it remains a bureaucratic nightmare for most Americans. The U.S. government has imposed strict rules on travel to the island, limiting it to specific categories such as educational or humanitarian purposes. Touristic travel is not officially permitted, and Americans must keep detailed records of their activities in case of future audits by U.S. authorities. Additionally, Cuba requires Americans to obtain a visa and often subjects them to extra questioning upon entry. The strained history between the two nations continues to manifest in mutual distrust, making it a challenge for American travelers to move freely or comfortably within the country. Number 5. Venezuela. Traveling to Venezuela as an American involves navigating a maze of political hostility and bureaucratic obstruction. The country's strained relationship with the United States has led to a sharp deterioration in consular services. Americans must apply for a visa through complex and often unresponsive channels. Once in Venezuela, the situation becomes even more precarious. The country is experiencing deep political and economic turmoil, and foreigners, especially Americans, can be viewed with suspicion. law enforcement agencies may arbitrarily detain or question U.S. citizens. The lack of rule of law, ongoing civil unrest, and shortages of basic goods make it a high-risk destination for Americans, with little recourse if something goes wrong. Number 4. China. China is another country where entering as an American has become increasingly difficult. Heightened geopolitical tensions, trade disputes, and accusations of espionage have fueled a wave of suspicion toward Americans. The visa process has become stricter, requiring extensive background checks, employment history, and even social media scrutiny. Once inside China, Americans may face digital surveillance, with their movements tracked and their communications monitored. Moreover, diplomatic disputes can quickly escalate, and Americans may find themselves stuck if relations sour further. Travelers must avoid discussing sensitive topics like Hong Kong, Taiwan, or the treatment of ethnic minorities, as even perceived criticism can lead to detention or deportation. Number 3. Russia. Tensions between the United States and Russia have been high for years, and this has directly impacted how Americans are treated when trying to enter the country. The visa process is extensive and requires an invitation letter, detailed documentation, and multiple layers of security clearance. Russian authorities often delay or deny visas to Americans as a form of diplomatic retaliation. Once inside the country, Americans can expect to be monitored, and in some cases, harassed or interrogated by local authorities. The political climate is highly nationalistic, and anti-American sentiment can surface in unpredictable ways. In addition, any involvement in protests or political discussions can be met with swift and severe punishment. It's a place where travelers must be constantly alert and cautious. Number 2. Iran. Americans face a highly complicated and often frustrating process when trying to enter Iran. The lack of diplomatic relations between the two countries means that there are no Iranian embassies in the U.S. to assist with visas. Citizens must apply through third-party countries and go through an opaque and time-consuming process, often without assurance of approval. Even with a visa, Americans in Iran are monitored closely, and their movements can be restricted. Political tensions add an additional layer of risk, as Americans can be detained for reasons that may seem arbitrary. Iran's Revolutionary Guard is known to be suspicious of foreign visitors, and Americans often find themselves treated with heightened scrutiny. This atmosphere of mistrust makes entry into Iran both difficult and dangerous. Number 1. North Korea. Entering North Korea as an American is almost impossible due to the extremely tense and hostile relations between Washington and Pyongyang. The North Korean regime views the U.S. as its ultimate adversary, and Americans are often seen as potential spies or agents of disruption. The U.S. government itself strongly discourages travel to North Korea and has, at times, outright banned its citizens from going there. Even if permitted under special circumstances, Americans who manage to get in must go through a tightly controlled government agency in a third country like China. Once inside, they are under constant surveillance, accompanied at all times by government minders. Freedom is an illusion, and even minor missteps can lead to severe consequences, including arrest, imprisonment, or worse. While the U.S. passport remains one of the most powerful in the world, it doesn't guarantee a warm welcome everywhere. In some countries, political rivalries, historical conflicts, and mutual distrust have created environments where American travelers are viewed with suspicion or outright hostility. Whether it's excessive paperwork, surveillance, or the looming threat of arrest, these destinations present serious challenges. For Americans, entering these countries is not just a journey, it's a test of patience, resilience, and sometimes, personal safety. Travelers should always do thorough research and be aware of the risks before setting foot in these complicated regions.